It's no accident that sounds like you're leveling up in a video game. 48% of 18 to 29-year-olds have an online dating profile.
Make them work for it.
45% of people say they're more frustrated with this form of dating than hopeful.
There are so many people you can connect with.
Should I swipe right?
Swipe wrong. Swipe wrong. Setting the record straight on dating apps. Everyday people telling everyday stories of the swipe right world with your host, Chaos.
Well, I know he had a good time.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, good night. How you guys doing? Welcome to the Swipe Wrong podcast. I am that guy. I'm that dude. I'm him. I am Chaos. Welcome to the #1 podcast amongst people who prefer it kitty style instead of doggy style. You know, there's just a lot more scratching and biting involved in kitty style than any other style. Those are my people. How we doing today? Hopefully you're doing outstanding. I sure am. I'm doing amazing. I'm doing awesome. I look like I am in Arctic temperature inside my house, but for whatever reason, this is the look I'm going with today. This is how I'm rolling. Hopefully you guys are doing tremendous. So have another great show. Let's do the housekeeping. I keep forgetting to mention it every single time we do a show. I talk about Jay, and the show I need to talk about the Musician's Playbook. You can order it on Amazon from the near and dear producer of this show, Mr. Pelham, is also an author and has that out. Take a listen, or take a look. Soon to be take a listen. I believe he's working on the Audible version of it as well. But get on Amazon, take a look. Paperback is like $11, and just get it, read it, enjoy it, and let us all know what you think for sure. Check him out on Facebook. He's got some good stuff going on there too. The show, like, follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell anybody who will listen. It gets to the point to where I'm like, hey, do you have ears? And you do. All right, check this show out. You might like it. You're in an unhappy marriage. Hey, I'm sorry. Oh gosh, I'm really sorry. But I tell you what, I know how I'm going to make it happier for you. Check out this show, because this will keep you married for a long, long time. Actually, I say that. But all this is so much fun. Like, experience over expectations, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. We talk to so many different people who have their own philosophies and their own coaching techniques. There's some that I love, and there's some that I'm just like, why are you helping people when you are the biggest train wreck I've ever seen in my life? You're helping people to train wrecks. Okay. So just make sure you're listening to the ones that you connect with and that you trust and that you know a little bit more about. Listen to me. Shoot, that'll work out. This week we're going north. We're going up to Canada. We're gonna hang out in Toronto. This is I think the second or third person we've had from Canada on. Actually, it might even be more than that by now. Cool. Super, super, super cool time. Great conversation. Great chick. Really, really cool. Got some good insights, some good dating stories, and a solid dating philosophy, which made me smile quite a bit. Very cool conversation. And I was sitting there and thinking, and like usually a name of a show will come to me. And this one we had already used. But anyway, sit back, relax, put your feet up, grab your popcorn. Get it buttered, throw some caramel on there, do whatever you want to do to your popcorn to make it just the scrum-diddly-umptious that you're hoping for. And if you're in traffic, please do me a favor. Don't hit that person next to you. And we've already used the title Not on the Menu, but we'll go with This Also Is Not on the Menu. Enjoy.
Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions or any entities they represent. This podcast is about dating experiences. It is not to say one dating app is better or worse than another.
your whole journey, I'm sure, started, I guess, like relationship ended, marriage ended, things ended or whatever. Then you kind of had to figure out your dating life, right?
Well, it's happened for me twice.
Okay.
A marriage of 12 and a half years ended. And at that point in time, my kids were still young. And I was very badly damaged. So it took me a while before I'd even get into the dating field of it all. It took me
Yeah.
time to get back into even being out there to about amongst people. And so I believe, and I've done the work on myself many, many years. It's part of life of building yourself up.
Sure.
And I did find somebody and was in another relationship, and then that ended. Unfortunately, a little worse than even the first time around.
Oh, goodness.
And yeah, but what kills you makes you stronger, right? So part of that again was the journey on finding myself and figuring out my life. And again, I never jumped into, I'm not the person that jumps into dating right away. It's about understanding me, finding out, because, there's two parts to every story, right?
Mhm.
Even if your marriage or relationship falls apart and, you feel done it all, but there's still parts of you that was involved in it.
Sure.
So you have to sit back and you really have to start looking at yourself, because the last thing is what you want to do is go into the same type of relationship again, or the
Mhm.
same type of person.
Right.
Who are you going to be attracting?
Yeah.
So the second time I was in a different position. I was much older. I was in my relationship ended and I was 52, and I had to figure out my life. But it wasn't just about that. I had to figure out even about my career or what I was going to do with myself, and it was all of that. And then when I finally settled on that, it was kind of like, am I still attractive? Can I
Yeah.
still attract a man? Because
Mhm.
these are the things that a woman asks herself.
Mhm. Mhm.
What is she about? What
Mhm.
type of a man, like you think to yourself, what is my type? We start looking at our type.
Right.
And, I actually did some real exploring on myself, because at the beginning, when I first dated, it was kind of, I'd look at the guy and I would sit there and look at the pitfalls and all the rest of it, and then come home miserable. And then I thought to myself one night, I don't know what it was, but I had this big epiphany that came over me. Well, I've been in two long-term relationships, and both relationships ended up in breaking up. So do I really even know what my type is?
That's cool.
Right? Because we're so busy thinking that we know what we want. And that's when actually my dating whole situation changed.
Okay.
And I went out and I started not expecting a type. I started to open myself up to anyone, but I did have a thing about me. Okay, I am 5'8". And so I tend to tower over people.
That's what heels on, I'm sure, for sure.
Yeah, I put a set of heels on and I'm
Yeah.
6 feet tall.
Right.
So I cannot go out with a man who is 5'5".
Okay.
I feel like I'm enormous. And I'm not.
Gotcha.
I'm quite well put together.
Uh-huh.
But I feel in myself that, and that was just part of some of the things that I grew up with. We all have these hang-ups in our heads.
Yeah. That is a you thing, not the other person thing. You're talking, it's not because the person's 5'5", it's just how you feel next night. That's you, right?
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
wasn't him. But, I tried certain things, but I still didn't feel the comfort level. But
Okay.
what I did start learning how to do at that point was I was just out to have a good time. I
Good.
just wanted to laugh.
Sure.
So it was like I wasn't looking for something. When you can go out and stop looking for something, stop looking for your type, my whole dating thing turned around. I started meeting really nice guys.
Okay.
Older gentlemen, like what I'm attracted to. Sure, you get on Tinder and you get on, well, I've done quite a few of them that I tried. And, you get the 30-year-olds and the 40-year-olds that are all, want the older women. And it's like,
Yeah.
I have a 35-year-old son.
Right.
Like, I can't imagine being with a 35-year-old.
Right.
It would be like doing my son, like
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel good, right?
No.
It's not my style.
Yeah, it's not a third world country thing. No, not at all. No.
No, everyone's got their style, and I'm
Sure.
not.
Yeah. No, look, hey, I would say I'm not here to judge. That one I might judge, though. That one I might.
But no judgment, because I have seen there's a lot of older women going out with a lot of younger guys.
Right. I'm just talking about like their sons. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Just,
like
the younger guys is fine. Hey, live your life, have a good time. Just don't let it be your son. That's all I'm saying.
but like to me, it was feeling like that because
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it, right?
Right.
So, I just sort of became a little bit more real of the age thing that made me comfortable. So, anyone after in their 50s and 60s was more of what was attractive to me.
Sure. Okay.
A little younger is fine, but it's like, you just find the peace. But when I started getting off the pressure of the type and just sort of went, okay, you know what? You just see, like I remember going out on one date and was a guy and I met him for coffee. A lot of times I'd rather meet somebody for a coffee or a drink, and that way, if it's not, you don't feel like you're stuck in that group,
Yes.
right?
Totally agree.
So I met this guy for coffee, and it was it was last summer, and it was, or I'm not sure exactly, but it was an afternoon. We met for coffee and we sat there and talked. And through the entire, the date lasted for 30 minutes. And he never asked me one question. He was too busy telling me about him.
It's so common. That drives me so crazy.
And I sat there and I was polite and and then I said, I looked at my watch and he said, "Why, you got to go somewhere?" And I said, and I'm really straight up. Okay. Like
Yeah.
I got nothing to lose in my life at this point in time. So I said, "It was really nice listening to you talk about yourself. But it is now 30 minutes in and you've not asked me one question about myself. So I think I got to go because we've really talked. People show you who they are, right?
Yeah, right away. Yeah.
So you've just shown me who you are and what you're about, and we're not a match."
Right.
So, thanks for the coffee, and I got up and I left.
Yeah. Did he respond at all? Like, is he just dumbfounded?
Yeah, like he was just sort of blown away that, first of all, I'm real.
Good on you.
Well, I was coming to start asking you. Well, I said, you know what? Here's the thing that I'll tell you. On a date, it usually starts off with you tell me a little bit about you, then you ask me a couple of questions, and I tell you a little bit about me. And it sort of goes back and forth when you first meet somebody. But it hasn't done that at all. So,
In your dating experiences, does this happen every so often? Maybe not to that extreme, but just where it was dominated.
But a lot of people okay, a lot of people feel like, and sometimes, they feel intimidated. Sometimes men feel intimidated when they come to a woman who is a woman who is put together.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
And I understand, but I've also got a really kind, gentle side to me. And I'm not overpowering or it's because it's never about me, and I'm cool with that.
Mm.
But just as you and I started when we started talking, it did go back and forth.
For sure. Yeah.
So, when somebody's taking the entire situation, especially in the first um, 30 minutes of a meeting, there's usually a bit of connection. What would there's some questions like I asked you, and it comes back and forth. And that's when you sort of see of the person who they are. Because, you can pretend and dress a certain way and all the rest, but your true nature will come out
Sure.
in a very short period of time.
Sure.
So, when it comes all about believing on putting yourself together and looking good and all the rest of it, but there's more to me than this.
Right.
Me is here.
Right.
And very heart-centered.
That's sweet. I can do that.
And me is always about, I'm very much into helping others. That's been my life.
Good.
So,
for better and for worse, from what I understand it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's taken me many years to be able to receive because I'm too much of a giver.
Yeah, sure. That's not uncommon. I mean, especially in that type of persona and that type of way of nature in your nature, I imagine. So the hardest thing that I understand that to be is just creating your own boundaries, right? Or am I inaccurate on that?
No, I think boundaries are a real important character in all of us, because it's also still the factor of, how much we do give, how much people will ask of us.
Right.
Right? Because that was part of my thing, like a lot of women or men who are, some are usually high achievers, we tend to give a lot. Because people will take from us, and that's just the thing. Depending on the roles that you've played in your life,
Right.
And what your background is, and especially through businesses and things like that.
Yeah, totally. So in your dating world and your dating experience, I know is taking you down paths. So what were some of the more like as you kind of opened yourself up to this isn't my type, that isn't my type? I mean, what were some of the dating experiences you had like, and how did you kind of grow as yourself going through all that?
Well, like I said, first of all, I stopped putting so much pressure on that it didn't
That's
have
right.
to. You know what? Like if I could laugh, I'm right. Like how many times do you get with saying, I don't want to hear about somebody's whole life that goes on and on about how the marriage didn't work and then his marriage and all the rest of it. Like, first of all, I never would go out with, and I have my stipulations. If somebody is separated, I don't go out.
Okay.
Because they're not free yet. They're still mentally and physically tied.
Okay.
I don't need the drama of the court battle and then I got to become the coach again, and I'm not working at it, right?
Right.
So part of my life is always coaching people. I don't need to be the coach of telling people how to get through their divorce and teaching them how to prepare and what to do and all the rest of it. So
Sure.
I stay away from someone. You've got to be on your own for a certain amount of time because you've got to have that time when you can heal yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And what is more common, men tend to, and I'm not trying to overgeneralize, but from what I have seen, men tend to jump back into a relationship before they spend the time with themselves.
Okay. I could see that.
And women tend to sometimes hold back too long and put up these barriers because they've been hurt.
Okay.
I'm guilty. I did that for a while too.
Yeah.
But I had to learn in my own head what went on, how I was involved, what I needed to learn from it, how I learned to release it. So I don't want to come back as a hard bitch.
That's fair.
There's
That's fair.
nothing nice about a hard bitch. You know what I mean?
Oh, but it's all the internal work that you do. Like I think that I've heard many people say that their dating life got better when they looked from within instead of looking to find something else on the outside. I've heard that I think that's 99% of the fix. It's not I'm going out with the wrong guys or I'm going out with the wrong girls. It's like, hang on, let me look in the mirror real quick and figure out what's going on here. And then maybe I'll start attracting and finding something different.
It's true. And when you
Mm.
attract what you are, when you
Yeah.
become the person that you need to become, then you attract more.
Yeah.
And that's why the healing situation for me was that I needed to get over my hurt and become open, because I knew that there was a wall around me that wasn't going to let anybody in.
Okay.
That's kind of, the way life is. You get
Sure.
hurt, you put up a wall.
Yeah. How long did it take you from one, like not only from just your breakup or your second one, I guess I should say, because that was the one you need to heal from the most, it sounded like, to saying, all right, hey, you know what, let me give this a shot. And then even after that, you're like, whoa, maybe I need to open myself up more. I mean, like, were those years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I started to date again, it took me, well, first of all, like I had to figure out what I was going to do with my life, because my partner was also my business partner.
Gotcha.
So I walked away with nothing except for, thank God, I had a roof over my head.
Okay. Wow.
So I had to reinvent myself. And that's part of what I do in my own life, is I help people reinvent themselves and break free and move forward in their lives, because that's what happens to us, right? So something happens. So I had to figure out what I need to do
Right.
because if I'm not happy, how am I going to jump into a relationship with somebody else?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't work out for anybody when they're trying to find happiness through the other person instead of themselves. That never works.
But it's not uncommon either, and it does
No.
happen too many times.
And that's not a recipe for success. How's that?
So that's actually when I started, because when I was starting to go out, I didn't think um, about who I should be going out with or things like that. I went out with a couple of guys who had been just recently separated and weren't divorced or on their own for a length of time. And that's when I started learning, like, no, I don't want to get involved with somebody if they're just recently have separated. Like, I don't need that.
Sure.
Like, that was my learning time.
Sure.
And it was my own growing and time, my growing time and my healing time as well. And that's when I started learning of what I wanted. But that's when I realized that when I said I was looking for the type. And then I realized, Glenda, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't even know what your type is, dear. And I sat back and I went, that's really, that really makes a lot of sense. Because I don't have a type. If I had a type, I would probably still be in the relationship.
But that's how it goes too, right? Like, we know by nature quicker what we don't want than what we do want, right? I can check off a list, like, I don't want peanut M&Ms right now. I'll take the plain, like, all right, like, I'm going to check off what I don't want. And then it kind of leads you back around to, all right, so what, once you eliminated your type, then you kind of started figuring out your type?
Yeah, I started figuring out, well, I just allowed myself to go out and have fun.
Yeah.
And be happy. And somebody wanted to go out for coffee, sure. And then I would go out with them for a date or two, a couple of times. And then I would sort of see if there was a connection there, or very, very common that a man thinks he buys you dinner and then you should be ready to go to bed. And it's like, you know what, I can buy myself dinner. Thank you very much. I don't need, so
Right.
it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, we're getting into, what people expect. Well,
Right.
I bought you dinner.
So hang on. So two things. One, I've never seen that on the fucking menu. So I've seen market price for lobster. I've seen the daily special. I've never seen that. That's never a house special. but I feel like you're saying something from an experience, so I'm gonna have to hear about this date.
Oh yeah. He didn't even buy me dinner. He only
He didn't even buy you dinner. What?
buy me dinner. He got drinks and one appetizer to share. Well, there was two different guys did. One bought me an appetizer and one appetizer to share and a drink, and then he thought he was going to lunch or dinner, whatever what he wanted on. So I was like, yeah, you're gonna have to do a lot more before that's gonna be happening, because it was, and I wasn't really super attracted to him, but as I said, I decided that I was good. It's not about the looks, it's got to be more than, right?
Sure.
I was gonna go out because you can't judge a book by its
Right.
cover, right? So, and that was the second date and the last date that I had gone with him. And then there was another guy who he was a pro tennis champion, and so he was very much into himself.
Yeah, love me some me,
And
sure.
we went out for a couple of times for drinks, and okay, everything was okay. And there can be kissing and all the rest, that's okay. And then we went out. So I said to him at one point, you know, we never it's just drinks and that's the end of it. And it's like, what, you don't go out for dinner ever, something like that? And he says, oh yeah, we should go for dinner. We can go for dinner. And then we go to this restaurant, which we go to a couple of restaurants. So it's getting colder in Toronto when we're walking around to these restaurants. And I will never, if somebody will ask me where you want to go, I will never, as being taken out on a date, will say where, because I don't know what price point that person looks at.
Fair. More than fair. I like that.
So I will always, I always know to, I will never be the first to order. I will always ask what they're looking at, so I understand where I'm looking at, because I'm not going to order a lobster when they're going to be ordering, I don't know, chow mein or something. You know what I mean? I will never go to that, because I'm respectful of, I don't know where they are. I'm not going to be asking. It's nice to go think. So, it was just that kind of, I watched where it was. So that night it was like we were around an area where there was a lot of restaurants and there was rooms over, and it was a cold night. And it's like he's looking at every single menu as we're going through, walking, trying to find a place to go. And I'm thinking to myself, like there were plenty of places to go. And then I finally said, it's getting a little cold. Can you not make a decision on going to one place, right?
Right.
And he said, finally he decides on this place. Okay, we go into the thing, and I see him looking through the menu and all the rest of it. This guy's been a bachelor all of his life.
And makes more sense now.
Okay, so now we're getting to the part where he's looking at the menu, and I look at, like I'm very easy. I can eat anything. I'm not like that. I have my own some food intolerances, but you take me to a place and I'll always find something to eat.
Sure.
It's no big deal.
Sure.
It's, and he's looking through the menus, and I'm seeing him scurving through and looking at everything and looking and reading. And I go, so, what looks, good to you? And I've already looked around, and I always look at the prices and look at what it is. And, so I would always look for something more of the lower end. So especially at the beginning of a relationship or a thing.
Cool.
Well, anytime, that's just really about what I'm about. Anyway, so he looks and he says, well, I'm not really hungry. So why don't we just share a dinner?
Oh, no.
You got it.
Oh, no.
And I went, like, what am I going to say at that point? No, I'm hungry. I'm going to have a dinner of my own. And I went, okay, well, so what do you want? So it showed me right away. we go to place to place to place to find a restaurant, finally find a restaurant, which is, it was an okay restaurant, not looking at one of the better restaurants or a nicer restaurant on a date type of thing. And then we're going to share a dinner. And I've never, like, I take my kids out for dinner and I've never said to them, let's share a dinner. I've never done that. My girlfriends would go out. We might order 2 dinners and split the dinner.
Right. Or 5 appetizers that everyone can dig in on. That's what they're designed for. Yeah.
Like something like that. That's cool.
Right.
And it was like, and now this guy does well in his life. Presumably, he's traveling he tells me about all the places he's traveling, and yeah, we're going to share a dinner. And I was okay. And and then afterwards, he thought it was time to have dessert on me.
Oh my gosh.
And it was, yeah. So that was the end of that dating with him because,
God, there can't be much more unattractive than that.
Sorry?
I said there can't be much more that's unattractive than that. That just in itself, by nature, as a person, just seems like an unattractive, no matter how good they look, just an unattractive quality.
I told you, it's not just about the face and there's more to that. But those things come out. And at the very beginning of every relationship, you see what the person is all about.
That's so bizarre. That is like you said, he's doing well. That's just bizarre. That's so peculiar. So as you're going through all this, and then when did you kind of decide that you wanted to go help people out in I guess the coaching manner?
Well, that's when I went back and I started looking at all the things that I had done through my life. So part of the reinvention phase is you look back at the things that you've been good at, the things that you've been successful at. And I've lived a very, very incredibly bright life. So I've been in corporate Canada. I've worked in retail in supervisory positions. I've been through import and exporting of products from Canada to the US to the Caribbean. Okay. I've been in so many different things. And then I went in and started doing some investing in properties, and I actually took a property and changed it to from a single family dwelling to a duplex. Became a landlord. I flipped. I've done a lot of stuff on my own. Nice. And that was part of me learning and falling a lot and getting up and keep going forward.
Yeah, right. That's awesome.
And and happy because of like that. Even when I fell and I bought a place and I went with somebody that I shouldn't have gone with as a contractor, and he totally took advantage. And I found out, thank God, because I do listen to my voices inside of me that lingering that something was wrong, and found out that he had done some really shortcuts and got rid of him, and I had to break down everything he did, and I had to put more money into it. But I turned around and I still made money on it. Nice. Because I knew when the right time or how long to keep it. So it all worked for me. But like I take my losses and I take my falls and my dents, and I say, okay, well, I learn a little bit more, and then as I go, I keep going. And the one thing is I've always had most of my life where people would always come to me for advice.
Okay.
So I thought to myself, when I had gone through this and I tried another business, but I didn't love it. I was doing events, and it wasn't like I do it from time to time, but it wasn't my love.
Okay.
And then one day it was somebody who came and started asking me for advice on in real estate and so many other things. And I thought, I should be getting paid for this.
Yeah, no kidding.
I spend so much time talking to people and helping people. Well, maybe it's time that I should be looking at. So that's why I ended up going into coaching.
That's awesome. How long have you been doing that?
For the last 10 years, 15
Oh,
years.
wow, really? Okay.
So, yeah, so I started learning about online, and I started knowing that online was a place where I had to start learning things. I'm always learning.
Nice.
And put myself out there, and that's how I found myself a mentor, and I keep learning and doing. Like I was just on watching a thing. I'm doing a right now, learning about YouTube right now, so I can start increasing my YouTube visual. So it's all about learning.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you can't stop doing that because everything's changing anyway, so you got to
Yeah.
learn along with it.
But
That's
it keeps your mind sharp, right?
yeah, yeah, that's true.
So
That's true.
that's what I love. And that's so it was like starting to learn. I like being around men that are smart, who are interesting, that are funny, who that are not as scared to take me out for a meal because, like I'm not sharing a meal for one.
You're not splitting a meal. Oh, maybe just an appetizer. Okay, all right. Oh, and then my house. Okay, gotcha. All right. No, no, none of those guys.
No, so it was like I knew what my worth was.
Good. Good. That's
I
huge. A lot of people don't.
right. Well, that's why I left my relationship, because I knew what my worth was.
Good. So that
And
hasn't been an issue for you.
no,
Good.
but I have to say, when I left, it wasn't my worth that was the issue, but my confidence went down quite a few
Sure.
notches.
Sure.
Like I was very badly hurt and taken advantage of, and it did knock me down. That's why I didn't date for a couple of years when I first started going out. And then I started putting myself onto dating sites, and then I stopped taking it all so seriously. And I thought, hell, I'm going to go out and I'm going to have fun. Yeah, maybe I'll
Right.
meet a nice guy or two. And I did. I met some nice guys. I met, I had developed a couple of friendships from them that didn't go in further.
Right.
And so to me, that's, not everybody is going to end up being your lover, but they could be turning into being a valuable lesson and a friend that helps you through your life. We don't know why we meet people.
Yeah. I truly think and that's one thing that's not talked about enough, and it flies completely under the radar, is how many friends, just genuine friends, you can make from being on the apps. Like if you don't go into it with any agenda, just, like I've said way too many times on my show, and I think I've already said twice to you, experiences over expectations. And you go and you just enjoy the company that you kind of know, and usually you both kind of vibe in the same way to where like this is probably more platonic than hanging from the chandeliers or anything like that. And I have some really good friends that I've met from the sites because of that. So, and that I'm eternally grateful for.
And because I'm also living in a city where I grew up, I've actually come across people that I knew when
Huh,
I was younger, and we
interesting.
went out, and it didn't turn into anything more, but it actually came back as friendships, because like you get to a point, you mate when you're really young, your life changes, you go this way, they
Sure.
go that way, and then you come
Mhm.
back together, and then it's like old coming home week, where you
Sure.
sit and you can talk about friends or family, and it just turns into being like you just go out and you go, I had a really nice time out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be anything more, but just being out there with and saying, how nice they turned into being.
Yeah. That's interesting too. Like I guess I haven't seen that yet. Since you're in the old city, I bet that's just like, hey, let's relive old times, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of like I grew up, in the summer times, my family would go up to, we had a cottage up north, we call it, and some people call it country homes, but it wasn't at that level. It was
Okay.
cottage, and they were probably the best times of my life. And there was a lot of the same people around, and then they all brought their friends and all the rest of it. So it's amazing the amount of people, and then you come back, and then years later you cross again, and it becomes just a nice way to see somebody and hear
Yeah,
what's going
sure.
on in their life. So
Sure.
I just looked at it would be coming home and just feeling Oh, this was really nice.
That's awesome. I mean, that's awesome. That really is. So, in your world now, are you in a relationship? Are you out dating? What's going on?
So I am now in a relationship,
Nice.
and I've been with this gentleman for I think it's 2 years now.
Okay.
He watches the calendar, I don't. Um,
All right. All right.
You know what? I can't be who I'm not, and
Right.
that's it, right? Like I remember last year we went. He had taken me away on a holiday, and he had booked. We went to Jamaica, and he booked a night, a dinner on the beach. And I said, "Oh, that is so sweet." Like he's sweet and he's kind and
Yeah.
everything that I wanted,
Right.
smart, and we can sit there and talk for hours on end, which we do. And he does nice things without for no reason. Like last week, I was going to book this with you, but I was sick, and he
Sure.
just dropped over just with flowers, just because he knew that I wasn't feeling well,
That's
and
awesome.
I've been very busy working on trying to get a place ready for sale. And so he knew that I had been pushing it, right? And just wanted to drop off flowers. So
Oh,
you know what I
that's
mean?
sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, so we're in Jamaica, and he books this night on the beach, a dinner, like dining on the beach. And I said, "Oh, that is beautiful. That's so sweet." And he says, "Yeah, it's our anniversary." And I go, and
Oh,
he says, "Yeah, we've been going up for a year." And I went, "Wow, well, time flies, and
oh, that's so
I
funny.
don't know when I start. That's just, I can tell you sort of now around because of that, but I don't look no time wise.
Right, right.
I don't know
But
people's birthdays unless they're in my calendar now.
yeah,
That's how
unless you
I
get the
think about it.
Facebook alert and things like that.
And
Yeah,
well, anyone who I love and care for is in my calendar, so I know when
sure.
the birthdays are. Because I don't know, I don't have a head for numbers of thinking of that. That's not my
No,
strong suit.
no. I can remember numbers from when I was like in elementary school, like my old house phone number and stuff like that. Yeah, I got no chance. Now I barely remember my own phone number to give it out. I have no idea. But send me a contact card. That's where I'll be. So, well, that's cool. It sounds like you got a good one. He's not sitting there trying to split a dinner with you.
No, no, not at all. And the same thing, what I remember the first time, what's your favorite restaurant? And it was like, I don't know, like because I didn't
Yeah,
want, I don't like to feel
yeah,
awkward, and I don't like to presume. And I think that's a great dating tip for anybody who's looking, when they're dating, is, I've seen and heard of women who have, looked to go to the most expensive restaurants
yeah,
and things like that. And what for? Like if you're going to make someone feel uncomfortable, it's just not the way to connecting up with people.
yeah.
So and I think that's just being having the proper connection. I think it's part of manners.
Yeah, I would say if you're not going to be good, then just don't go out. And if you have intentions of $100 dinner for the sake of $100 dinner, you can do that with your friends. You don't need to do it. Some guy who might or some girl who might have hopes for something else. Just be looking. We're all broken in some way. Every damn, you have Romeo and Juliet, you have Bonnie and Clyde. Everyone's damage
Yeah,
is just hoping to match up with somebody else's damage.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So go on. Sorry.
no, I'm just saying. So I just feel that you really have to put yourself, like I always will put myself in the position, like what would if somebody had done that to me?
Yeah.
It's just not nice. So, stop for a minute and, just think if that was done to you. So, I'd rather somebody go out and have a lower key thing, as long as I had my own meal. But
For sure.
And like I said, I wouldn't even mind of sharing a meal, but it's the way you do it too.
Yeah, for sure.
All
For
of
sure.
that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a comedy of what went on, but like I said, just knowing that there are really good people out there,
Yeah.
and you know what? Yeah, I have met some really nice people, and it's just of being yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So being a coach for the past 10 years and all the experience that you have, well, I guess, you've pretty much dropped a lot of wisdom already, but what would be the biggest advice you'd give to people who are out there trying to date and figure things out?
First of all, be healed from what you've been through before, number
Yeah,
one, because when you bring your hurt, you close yourself off, and be the person that you're looking for.
that's fair.
So I am, and I say it because I know I am that, and I'm not saying it to blow myself up. I know that I'm very kind, I'm honorable, I'm sincere. That's the type of a person that I was looking for.
Nice.
You can't look for something that you're not, because you're not going to attract it.
I like that. I like that. I guess know who you are too.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Well, that's awesome. I love that you've taken the time and we talked about the cold and you totally course corrected me from my thinking of cold because it is not that bad. I just need to dress appropriately. I can't go streaking in -3-degree weather. It's actually
Well,
quite
there are
painful.
people that are doing polar, like Tony Robbins always does, those jumping into the ice waters and things like that. And I
Yeah.
just heard of another group that does this every year in Toronto, and there's people that are doing it all the time because they say there's a lot of health positive effects to it.
Yeah.
But I personally, I ain't jumping in no hot in freezing cold. Like
No.
a
Nope.
steam bath, I'll jump into in something hot, but not something cold like
Nope.
that.
No, I understand the Tony Robbins philosophy. I think he has that pool, like little dipping pool he has at like 45 degrees that he just needs to reset his system and wants to go jump in. And I'm not quite there yet. I'll just say that. Maybe one day, but I'm no polar plunge for me. No shrinkage is out. No, thank you. Thank you for coming on and just, dropping some wisdom and just I know you're getting over being sick and I know we were trying to get last week, but it's just been an absolute pleasure to be able to speak to you.
Well, it goes around the same way. I feel the same way. You're just wonderful. Thank you so much. And yeah, part of me is being open and honest and sharing so that, especially I see a lot of women now in it's restarting life again in 40s, 50s, 60s, and
Sure.
and 70s too. And there's always love around and a lot of hope around, but we have to learn to be real and really look into the mirror for ourselves first.
And I guess I should ask you this: if people want to find you and find your content, find who you are, your YouTube channel, where can they find you?
On Instagram, I'm noted as the Wise Woman's Word.
Nice.
And everywhere else, I'm Glenda Kroll, Kroll.
Perfect.
So I'm always there for leading some wisdom into anyone, or you know what? Sometimes somebody just needs a friend.
Sign me up. Thank you for being along for the ride on the Swipe Wrong podcast. The show is produced by Jay Pelham. He is the author of The Musician's Playbook. We are everyday people like you and me, telling everyday stories of the swipe right life. You want to reach out to us, we want to hear your story. 317-426-6616. Make sure to text, leave a voicemail, we'll get back to you. Shoot us an email at swipewrongpod@gmail.com. We are on Facebook, Insta, Twitter, YouTube. We are definitely out there. I am the host of the show. My name is Chaos. And please make sure to take a listen to us next week because the saga, it continues.
Swipe wrong. Swipe wrong.